Welcome everyone, and what we want to do now is just talk a little bit about prosperity consciousness and how the book came about. But before we do that, we thought we'd just talk a little bit about where we've come from, because the book is actually a culmination of a lot of our life experiences and the things that we've learnt from where we've had absolutely nothing to where we've been dealing with some of the top CEOs around the world in the sort of work we do. And one of the things that's come out of that is this book, Prosperity Consciousness, which highlights some of both the stories and the learnings that we've made over time that have actually made a difference in our life and in lives of many thousands of people as well. So, for example, I came from absolutely nothing. My family was as poor as you could possibly imagine. We travelled around Australia about 3 months ahead of my father, ever since I was about the age of 6 months. And from that we created a whole way of being that was very much embedded in not having anything at all. Chutisa, on the other hand...
Yeah, for me, on the other hand, I've been blessed to be born into quite a well-to-do family, of aristocratic family in Thailand. And when I came over to Australia and married Steve, I've chosen to give up, everything and just start our life together from scratch. So it gave me the space to know that what's like to have it all, and what's like to give up it all, and what's like to actually build it all up together with ease.
So we've been married over 40 years now, and we've known each other for about 43 years. And what we've done is we've seen everything from having absolutely no money. We went to the US, for example, for 2 years to do study over there. Nothing. We were living on $1 TV meals for about 12 months. But from there we learnt that the universe is actually a really abundant place, and this is where we really started to live from the sense of no lack. And one of the things that we talk about in this book is this sense of this energy of no lack in anything. And what we've found over time is that if you're able to tap into that energy of no lack, then you're able to actually create your life in a very different way than about 99.9% of everyone else. It has nothing to do with money. It has everything with the way you choose to see the world.
And the sense of no lack is a space of being that you have to choose to be. We were very good at building our life and creating a lot of money, as we were working in the corporate world in Australia, and both of us were on six-figure income, except the sense of lack was always there. Even though we made a lot of money, we still felt that there wasn't enough. There was something missing. So we knew that there's something so much more than just money. By having so much money and not having the consciousness that allow us to enjoy and appreciate money, no matter how much money you make, you're not going to enjoy and enjoy having it and using it.
So Prosperity Consciousness, the book, came about because what we wanted to do is to put down some of the truisms that we'd come across, some of the ways of looking at the world. And what we thought we might do is just briefly go over what some of these things are. What we would like to mention about the book, however, is that this is the second edition, and in this edition there are QR codes called quick response codes, and those codes in the book actually lead you to a whole lot of videos that go into much more depth about some of the elements that are actually talked about in the book. It's very cool. So one of the key things that we talk about is functioning from this energy of no lack. And what would it be like for us to actually have in our universe this notion of no lack? We find it slightly better way of looking at things and looking at it from a sense of abundance, because when people say abundance, they think, well, I don't have abundance, so therefore I can't get there. Whereas if we start to look at things from the notion of no lack, then every little thing we do to get rid of the sense of no lack is a step in the right direction.
And the sense of no lack in your universe is the same as the sense of having infinite choices and infinite possibilities. So the first tool that we invite you to have is to actually see that if you have any lack in your universe, you just have to be willing to let the lack go and start looking at what would it be like to function from a sense of no lack.
So when we talk about this, it's very much from the energetic sense. It's not just about having more money, because, I mean, let's face it, some miserable people out there. If you gave them more money, they'd still be miserable. So what if we actually didn't look at it from a money side of things, but from how we actually choose to be in the world? And a sense, and an energetic sense of no lack is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself and the people around you. So just look at it from that energy
But
sense.
there are a lot of money who inherited a lot of money, or inherited, or working in a really, really good job that pay a lot of money, or those one who won lottery and things. If you have a sense of lack, there's no way that you're going to be able to keep that money. So that's the first thing. We're starting into a lot of people who won lottery. A majority of them, before they know it, if they're not able to build the sense of prosperity consciousness within their life, they're going to lose that money very quickly.
And it's interesting to know, one of the things we talk about also is how do you know when you're functioning from this sense of lack? And so we talk about the 3 lies of scarcity, that it's amazing to know that they exist. And most people function from them most of the time. So the 3 lies of scarcity are, number 1, that you really feel that there's not enough. There's not enough time, there's not enough money, there's not enough people, there's not enough clients, there's not enough in my bank account. And you could go on all day about there's not enough of, and then you just fill in the gaps. And people function from that. The second lie of scarcity, which is even more interesting, is that people then think it's really hard. Do you know how hard it is to make money? You thought it was hard this year, you wait till next year. The government's doing all this stuff to us. Gee, that makes life hard. Business is tough, all that sort of stuff. People think it is hard, whatever it is.
And the media always tell us how hard it is and how much there's not enough to go around. So if you function within this reality and you buy it as real, you are going to buy into the news and information that there's not enough to go around, and it's going to be so hard for you to try to make ends meet.
So the first lie is there's not enough of, and then whatever it might be. And then the second lie is it's hard. But the third lie is really quite interesting because it makes the other 2 invisible. So not only is there not enough, and not only is it really hard, but guess what? That's just the way it is. That's the economy. That's the country we live in. That's the sector we're in. I mean, I'm just a spiritual person. I'm just a chiropractor. I'm just a CEO, whatever it might be. That's just the way it is, and there's nothing you can do about it, which makes the other 2 totally invisible. So what we invite people to do is just to recognise when they slip into any one of those 3 lies, or, as is more common, all 3 of them at once, because we all do it.
Well, the third lie you have to talk about, you said about the 2 first.
I said the third one.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So with those 3 lies, then what you find yourself getting is a way of looking at the world. Because if you believe that there's not enough out there, if you believe it's hard, and if you believe there's nothing you can do about it, then what happens? Nothing changes. And if you're just willing to look at those lies as actual lies and then turn them on their heads, what if there was plenty out there? Where is it? Who's got it? What does it look like? What if it looked totally different to what I'd already decided? And what if it was actually easy? Because you know the difference between easy and hard is just a point of view. And if you think it's hard, you'll prove it. If you think it's easy, you'll prove it. So you may as well make it easy, just a point of view. And then how do we want it to be? Let's understand what the restrictions are, but work around them, not be constrained by them, not be limited by them. And it's that point of view that is what makes really good businesses, really good lives, and makes things so much easier for everyone, yourself included, if you don't buy into those lies. So if we look at the notion of prosperity consciousness, is all about willing to be that energy of no lack in anything. If you ever sense a feel of lack of whatever it might be, then just say, hang on a second, I know that this is not real. But we buy into it and then we act accordingly. If you know it's not real, then you start to look at things very differently. And it's not just about being optimistic, it's not just about being Pollyannish, half glass full. It is about looking at the world in a very different space. So one of the things that we encourage people to do is to start looking at these lies of scarcity and then just taking them and saying, well, what if that wasn't true? Where would I need to go? Who would I need to talk to? What would I need to do different that I hadn't considered doing before? And that by itself is just going to change lives. We find this all the time.
And if you stop buying the lie of this reality, the lie of scarcity, you would be able to step into what you are capable of. You'll be able to use your capacity to create and generate more money than you could even imagine. But as long as you're still buying to the lie, you're not going to be able to claim on and acknowledge your capacity that you really, really, truly have. We all have that capacity to generate and create, any amount of money you wish or you choose to do.
The other thing that's we found very important in all of this is this sense of gratitude. So one of the greatest gifts, again, that you can be to yourself is to be grateful for what you have and what else. Grateful for what I have and what else. Grateful for what's happened and what else. It's that and what else part that's probably important. But that spirit of gratitude that you've got, what that does is it enables you to see things as they are rather than what most people would say is competition. Because if you're functioning from competition, always it'll be, well, why have they got it and why don't I? And that stops any possible creativity or anything else that the universe wants to give you. It stops it in its track because you're not even grateful for what you've got at the moment.
And the sense of gratitude is, everyone talk about it, no matter who you speak to. It's about being grateful for what you have first. But people tend to overlook that, that is something that if you don't do anything else, just be in the space of gratefulness. Being grateful for what you have, being grateful for no matter how big or how too small, how universe to provide more for you.
So what happens in the book, for example, is we take you through a whole range of different chapters, and each of those chapters has some really interesting insights and some good stories that actually illustrate a lot of the elements that's in the book there. And as well as that, it also links to various videos that enable you to get into some more depth about, well, what do you mean by gratitude? What does that look like? What does this notion of energy look? What are you talking about in terms of energy? Prosperity, what in the world is that?
And generosity of spirit.
Generosity
we
of
talk
spirit.
a lot about that. What's it be like to function from generosity of spirit? And
not only that, but there's also some workbooks and there's also some exercises that you can go through. But in essence, it's not these aren't just good ideas. This stuff actually works because we know it in our own life, and we work with some of the top people around the world with the same sort of results. So we work with house husbands, we work with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Same sort of thing, because it's how we choose to see the world, through a sense of lack or through a sense of no lack. That fundamentally changes conversations, changes the way you choose to create your life, and it's not as difficult as most people think it is. We often get asked, well, where do I start with this? And in all of that, the response to where do I start with this is, well, you start where you are. First thing is have gratitude for what is, rather than constantly looking at what you don't have, or what you should have, or what others have. And so that sense of gratitude and what else is possible. And that's what starts to change things. So where do you start? You start where you are. Don't try and figure out the next step. Just be grateful for what is, and then constantly ask, and what else is possible? Who else do I need to talk to? What else needs to change in my life? If you don't want anything to change in your life, well then that's exactly what you're going to create. If you do want some things to change in your life, then having gratefulness, having the gratitude, having the generosity of spirit is a darn good place to start. And then from there, the choices you make are very different. So the question was about prosperity, and we know that prosperity has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with the way you see the world, and everything with the way that you actually choose to be in the world. And that energy, that spirit of generosity, that energy and that spirit of, I wonder what else, that sense of curiosity is one of the greatest things we can bring to our life and to the lives of those around us. That sense of curiosity, that little innate, insane curiosity we've got about, well, what else is possible, is what really starts to create this prosperity consciousness.
Be the energy of prosperity consciousness. It's like be energy of no lack. Be energy of infinite choices and infinite possibilities. It's the choice that you have to step into being. So, it's not something that just happened to you.
And can I also say, prosperity consciousness does not exclude money either. Because a lot of people think that for me to have prosperity, I've got to get outside of money and not look at money because money's horrible. And it doesn't exclude any of that. But it also isn't limited by money as well too. There's no reason why you can't be both prosperity consciousness and have a lot of money as well.
With prosperity consciousness, you would have generosity of spirits. And if you are willing to have money, then you'll be using the money from different space than just spending money. You'll be using money from the space of create more for everyone concerned, create benevolent space for the world and for the people around you. So it's more like how you can use the money to create change and transformation in the world. And that's our point of view. We go out there and do a lot of work and do a lot of things so we can generate more money. And the question for us is, what would it take for us to use those money to actually make the difference in the world and create change and transformation? Because we can have as much money, but so what? You know, you can have to the one point of how much money can you spend yourself. So the question always, what generosity spirit can we be that allow us to create more money, that would allow us to use the money to create change?
And it's not giving away money, it's using money to create change. Even if it's creating change with our daughter, or creating change with people that we know, or creating change in business, or creating change, and whatever it might be. But the real gift of money is to actually create change. And so this is a fabulous way of actually looking at prosperity. You know, people have said, why do you want more money? Don't you have enough? No, I'll have too much that I could spend and never enough. Why? Because I like creating change. And whatever that change is needed is what money assists in us being able to do. Different way of looking at money. Consciousness book, the creative process behind that was really us sitting down and saying, well, what does this look like in our life and what have we seen in others? Because we deal a lot with people around the world, very, very successful people. And what we said is, well, what is it in this that we've actually learnt in our own journey, but also in the journeys that other people have had as well? And based on that, what we did is we came up with a series of, I suppose, headings, chapter headings that seemed to put this into perspective, and then developed up some homework essentially that people could do that have really helped us. There's some fabulous questions in the book that we use all the time. There's some great exercises in there. You know, won't go into them now, but there's we've been through all of those and they work. This stuff actually works. What it does is it gets you out of you thinking that there's a lack into looking at things very different.
I think the reason why the book actually physical actualized into the book form was that we work with so many people out there, and so many of them are such successful business people who are making a lot of money, but they're so miserable and not happy. And we always wonder, why are they not happy? So we kept on talking to all kinds of people, did some research to work out what would make you happy, you know, why aren't you happy? So it's come from the research that we do with a lot of people we meet, and also it came out from our own personal experience that we ourselves made money, and until we're able to step out of scarcity paradigm and truly function for prosperity consciousness, there's something missing in our life.
Every time, here's a challenge for everyone, every time we've found ourselves falling into the lie of scarcity, that feeling of lack, and we've caught it and we've said, not anymore, we made more money. This is sort of how it works. And it's not about getting rid of it necessarily, it's about recognizing when it occurs and choosing to step outside of it and choosing to say, hang on a second, was that scarcity? Or what would it be like if I function from a lack of scarcity? And that totally changes the way you look at it. And every time you do that, then you generate more money, but it may not be linear. And it may not be directly in your bank account. And it may not look like the folding stuff, but gee, it's there.
Anytime we step out the sense of lack in our universe, you know, the stress just melts away. When you don't have a sense of lack and when you don't have a sense of stress, you open up to receive more from everywhere and from everyone and everything. When you have a sense of lack, you just seem to be contracted and you're not willing to receive. So I think if for one tool that if you can walk away from today and looking at shifting yourself whenever you catch yourself getting into the sense of lack and say, okay, I'm not choosing that anymore. I'm going to choose to see the world as a prosperous and abundant place, and then step into that space, you know, then you feel more relaxed and you'll be willing to receive more. You have to be aware and willing to acknowledge that those are the three lies, because a lot of people are not even aware that we are being a victim of those scarcity paradigms. So they just think this is just the way things are. Nothing I could do about it. So the first key is to be aware that there are three lies of scarcity that we are all functioning from. We are all functioning from.
And don't judge yourself for it. Just be aware of them, because once you're aware of them, then you can choose differently.
So if you're aware of the lie, then you say, oh, have I bought this lie of scarcity? Have I bought that there's not enough? Because how often do you wake up in the morning and say, oh, I just don't have enough time, and oh, I have to pay the bills, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough this, and I don't have enough that. As soon as you start thinking, I don't have enough, just catch yourself and say, what if any of these thought, feelings, and emotion I have about not having enough is not true? What if there are plenty to go around? What would it be like if I function from a space of no lack? Just for today, just for now, I'm going to choose to go through the day and function from a space of no lack, and allow yourself to feel the energy. Ask yourself, what would it be like to feel the energy of no lack? Just feel it now. What would it be like for you to actually be in the space of no lack? If there's totally no lack in your life, what would you choose? What would you choose to be or do that would allow you to function in that space all the time?
And the gift of that, if you function from that energy of no lack, is guess what? You start to see where all this stuff is that you've been refusing to see previously. Because it's all there. You know, there's people there that you don't even know exist that could make your life easier. There's money out there from areas that you had no idea even exists, and you've been refusing to see it. But if you function from that sense of no lack, then at least you'll start to see where some of these things are, where they're possible, who you need to talk to, what needs to change, because it's there. But gee, it's a lot of hard work not to look at them.
And the second lie is it's so hard. You know, everyone's saying, oh, it's just too hard. You know, life is too tough. Things are too hard, and there's a global financial crisis, and you know, people just buy into that and just make it real and true. What if it's just all lies? If you just say to yourself, what if those things that think's too hard, just a lie? But the last one, you want to talk about the last one?
Oh, why don't I let you do that?
You do that.
Because I'm not sure what you're talking about.
The last lie is nothing you can do about it.
Oh, there's nothing you can... Oh, I
you
love
that one.
Oh, yeah. This last lie of... We have a comedy act as well. The last lie of where there's nothing you can do about it. The interesting thing about this one is as soon as you think there's nothing you can do about it, that's what the contract says, that's what the government regulations say, that's what our neighbourhood says we have to do, this is what it says we have to do in our sector, right? As soon as you buy that, you stop even looking for other ways. It's how you choose to interpret everything that makes you what you are, so that you can have the most rigorous rules, the most rigorous regulations behind your business, but how you choose to interpret them is totally different than how anyone else would choose to interpret them. If you choose to interpret them from a sense of no lack in your universe, then that's going to make you very different to everyone else. That's another word for innovation, by the way.
And look at your life, look at anything you do in your days and in your life, anywhere that you say nothing that I can do about it. Catch yourself and say, oh, what if there's something I can do about it? You know, there's always something you can do about anything. You don't have to buy the thing that says nothing I can do about it.
Comes to the realisation.
Just realise. And it's so hard sometimes because we've been brought up in different ways. But if people just realise that everything's a choice, and then there's another choice, and if it doesn't work, I'll do another choice, and if it doesn't work, I'll choose again. If that doesn't work, I'll choose again. If that works, I'll choose again. And if that works really well, I'll choose even again. Because from that space, there can be no fear. Because always there's choices that we've got in there. And so looking at everything is just a choice, and I'll keep that choice as long as it works, and if it doesn't work, I'll change it. Most people think once they've made a choice, they've got to stick with it, which just sticks us.
And exactly what you said, you came to realization that you are the only one who can make a change, and you are the only one who can make the choice to do something about it. But first you have to realize that by thinking that nothing I can do about it is not true. Unless you actually can step out of that and see that if I buy into the idea that nothing I can do about it, it just mesmerizes you into that reality, and you cannot do anything to break yourself out of it. So when you catch yourself feeling really stressed and anxious and say, oh, this is terrible, nothing I can do about it, just stop and say, what if there's something I can do about it? What do I have to be or do different for me to do something about this? You know, it's just so simple, just by being in the question yourself, that when you actually get into the fact that, oh dear, nothing I can do about it, things are so terrible, just stop and say, okay, what needs to change here? What needs to change here for me to be able to do something about it? What do I need to be? What do I need to do different for me to do something about it? Because you can do something about it. Exactly like you said. You know that you are the only one who can do anything and everything about anything if you choose.
And for those of the people who are actually watching this, and they think, oh, this has only got to do with business, there is no difference in any of that. This sense of no lack, this sense of prosperity consciousness will create your life as your business and your business as your life. And it's so much easier than trying to fight against everything, which is what most people tend to do. Okay, so one of our other books that we've got out is called No More Business as Usual, Leading from the Edge of Possibility. And in that, what we make the plea for is, please, today, more than ever before, we've got to look at business not as everyone else has looked at it. It's got to be from this point of view of no more business as usual. We've got to start looking at things very differently to actually create a sustainable future for both us, for our businesses, and for the planet as well. There are some people out there that actually view business as quite different. We've got, Steve Jobs, whilst he was with us, really saw things from a place of no more business as usual, because he would take the limitations and destroy them. He would take the points of view about music and destroy them, right? Because he didn't buy into those points of view. We've also got those organisations that have bought into the points of view, like HMV or Blockbuster, Kodak, all right, who thought they'd got it right. No. So what happened there is, because they thought they'd got it right, there was no other way of looking at the world. So we've got to constantly be looking at things from a place of no more business as usual. What do I need to be or do or change that is different, that gets outside of what everyone else has decided business should be like?
Business as usual is not working anymore. You know, the world is moving at the speed of lightning. And if you keep doing anything based on the past reference points, based on the usual, it's just not working. We need to look at what would it take to create sustainable future, sustainable reality, and sustainable world. We have to look at how we can make the world more than one when we found it. You know, just by making money and just destroying the world is just not enough anymore.
In the space of 5 years, we've created 5 global businesses. And the one which is even more interesting is my wife and daughter have a business together as well, which most people think is absolutely impossible, but they enjoy it. But they were created from this space of no more business as usual. What do people think business should be? Now let's look at it from a very different point of view. Because it's actually easy when you start to look at, well, what are the limitations that most people think business is? What if that wasn't so? What would need to change? And what would we need to be and do and have that was different than that?